Well, good evening and welcome to Bluff's Community Forum. It's great to see a room full of people here, seeing people's faces and seeing people's smiles. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Kathy Benke and I've been a proud member of the Bluff team in the Public Relations Department since the year 2000. Seen a lot of changes in healthcare in that time, and I'm really excited about the continued changes and progress that I'm still seeing, and I'm really excited for you guys to get a sneak peek of that tonight as you get to hear from our executive team, get to see them and get an inside view of the passion that drives them to help make healthcare good for you guys. And so you'll see that there are some sheets on the table. That is your opportunity to give us some feedback on this event, and if you could fill those out before you leave, we'd really appreciate that to get some input from you guys. And you can just leave them right on the table when you're done. And I know you didn't come here to hear me, so I'm going to pass it on to the woman you did come to hear from, and I'll pass it on to Dara Bartels, who is Bluff's president and CEO.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And Kathy, before you walk out and get organized, thank you for putting this on. I appreciate it. First time, and I think we've done a great job. So the first community forum tonight, we thought it was important to get out in front of the community and kind of talk about what's going on. So we'll step through it. You'll get to meet our executive team, and then we'll go through some things that are going on, and then we'll have some questions and answers. So we'll be coming around with microphones. So write them down as we go through, and we will definitely do our best to address them. So as I said, we will do welcome and introductions. We walk together into the future. One thing they put together is I really think it's important that we walk with the communities that we serve. We move forward and we work together. So in the last 4 months, I've been trying to meet new people, been trying to get in front of communities, been at board meetings, been at some of the city council meetings, trying to learn what we need in all of the areas that we serve. So, and then we'll have the open discussion, so the question and answer. So, who are we? We're a new executive team. We have some that have been with the organization for some time, and then we have some new to Bluff. So I'm going to call them up and let them tell you a little bit about themselves and what their role is at Bluff. So we'll start with me. So I'm Dara Bartels. I've been at Bluff Medical Center for 3 years. I started as CFO under Jim O'Keefe, so I got to learn a lot about his style and how the organization works, a lot of the history, which is wonderful. I've been in healthcare for 22 years. Started actually as an accountant auditing hospitals, so I got to see the insides and criticize them quite a bit, and then moved on to a larger system in Iowa, and most recently I came from Gunderson Health System. So I was the CFO there for 2 years. Working in a big system, as you will kind of get the theme, is not for me. I'd like to be able to touch the community that I work in and be able to see the changes that we make. So independence is a big part of my strategy here because I think it's very important. We really sit in a unique situation, being 70 miles from any real tertiary center, and so we really bring a lot of value and a great asset if we work together and continue where we're going. So I really thought about what team I wanted, and we worked through some things, and I'm going to introduce the great team. One thing about the team is I'm one that likes to talk, for one thing, so this is perfect for me. The second thing is I like to have conversations. So some people say you can take it and it can be an argument, it can be a discussion. I like to really work through things so we get the right answer. So we pulled a team together that will really talk through things. We will bring things to the table. You will see our personalities are different, and that was by design. So the first one that I'll have come up is Becca Aitzman. She is our Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. So I'm Rebecca Aitzman. I was born and raised in Hillsborough, Wisconsin, about 25 minutes from here. I graduated in 2002, and from there I went to Viterbo University and got my bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in accounting and a minor in management. After that, I started working for the Ho-Chunk Nation as an accountant in Black River Falls. And when the opportunity arose in 2007 for me to move closer back to home, I started with Mile Bluff. So I've been with Mile Bluff for almost 15 years. In between there, I have also completed my master's degree in accounting in 2009, and most recently in 2019, I completed my master's degree in healthcare administration. I started as financial analyst with Mile Bluff, and then I held that role for about 8 years, and then I moved into the accounting director position, and then as Dara moved into the CEO position, she moved me up into the CFO position. Some of the things I do at the hospital, I oversee the revenue cycle department, which is registration, coding, and then the business office as well. Materials management, so the supply chain. Facilities, which includes housekeeping and linen, along with plant ops, and I also oversee food and nutrition, including the cafe, and then the accounting team. So the financial statements, that's a large part of what I do, is taking care of the accounting, just because that's my background, but I'm getting to know some of the other areas as well. So I welcome you, and I'm glad to see you all here tonight.
One thing about Becca, her and I worked very close together for the last 3 years when I was CFO. She brings to the team really the inspiration of questions, mentoring and learning. You know, as we learn, things get better. Right? So she brings those questions and those things. Just so happens I'm a recovering, well, I am an accountant. I can't say recovering. I still love to do that type of stuff. But, you know, so we get to challenge. I get to challenge Becca and so she's fun to do that with. So very strong part of our team. Next comes Rhonda Larson, Chief Nursing Officer. She has a... Oh, I'll let you talk about yourself. I'll let you talk about yourself.
It's really great to be here tonight. I am a part of the administrative team here at Mile Bluff, but I've been a lifelong resident of this area. I grew up in Mauston, graduated from Mauston, and live in the New Lisbon area. I can't imagine being anyplace else. I had decided when I started my nursing career kind of late in my life, I was in my mid-30s, that once I started at Mile Bluff, that's where I was going to be, and that's what my plan is. So I am not an accountant, and I would never want to be an accountant. I'm not good at that, but I do love nursing. I have a passion for taking care of people, and it's something that I'm really proud of. I started at Mile Bluff. I really got my job because I had my daughter, and the OB nurse convinced me to apply at Mile Bluff as I was finishing my degree, and the rest was history. So I worked in the med-surg department on night shift. Then I went to OB and did labor and delivery. After that, I worked as a circulating nurse in our surgery department. And then an opportunity came up where I was able to work as the infusion and cancer care director, which was a brand new department for our hospital. And we grew that into a really great asset for our community. And then in December, I actually before that, I also took over our med-surg and OB departments. So I was a director over several areas. And then in December, I was very fortunate to be able to be a part of the administrative team and take over as the Chief Nursing Officer, which I'm so excited and really grateful for that opportunity to be able to lead our nurses at Mile Bluff and help them in areas like education and advancing into the careers that they want, just like I was able to do. So as the CNO at Mile Bluff, I am able to oversee a number of different departments, so med-surg, which is the hospital department, OB, the cancer care department, which includes wound care, surgery, our education department, dialysis, social services, and our ER and urgent care. So as you can imagine, they're all very busy departments, and we are really excited to see where we can go in the future. Mile Bluff is a 40-bed hospital, so a lot of people don't realize how many beds we do have there. But of those beds, 5 of them are OB, labor and delivery, and postpartum rooms, and then 6 are used by our infusion and cancer care department. And then we do staff for 18 patients. That's our staffing model right now. And typically our normal census is anywhere between 10 and 14. But of course, the last couple of years, it's been quite a bit more than that, so that's been a bit of a challenge, but that's typically what we see for census. We also have a lot of outpatient services here at Mile Bluff. So in addition to the infusion and cancer care department, the wound care department, we also have sleep medicine. We have cardiac rehab and health promotion. We have a diabetic education department, which has become extremely busy. Dialysis in both Mauston and Delton, which is a crucial service for this area. Urgent care and ER. We also have a lot of lab services, and you'll hear a little bit more about some of those in our outlying clinics. We have medical imaging, pulmonary rehab, speech, pathology, so that's a great service at Mile Bluff. Pain management, which is really taking off, and also our surgical services. So those are some of our outpatient services that we offer at Mile Bluff. I'm really grateful to be here tonight. I'm hoping that you'll learn a lot and help us to become even greater than we are, and help us grow as an organization, because that's what this is all about. Thank you.
So Rhonda really fills the team with a compassion concept, if you can't tell. Very compassionate, along with all the knowledge she has, you know. And so as I was able to look into the organization, which was great, I had 3 years to actually interview people and find people that really fit the culture that I wanted when I thought this opportunity was actually coming to me. And so those two, we looked inside the organization. One thing that was different is I decided we needed a chief operating officer. So we did not have a chief operating officer before I came along. What we had was a medical and a nursing that took care of operations. And those are a lot of hats to wear. You know, when you're medical and you have to worry about FTEs, and when you're nursing and you have to worry about FTEs seem to be the hardest, especially right now. So I looked for a subset that could look over the entire operations of the organization. So that means the revenue generating departments. And so I looked out and had some experience with Scott Niprath in a former life, so we call that. So we had some great conversations, and he came on board as a chief operating officer. So that is someone we looked outside to get, just because we didn't have that internal. And so I'll have him come up and talk about himself.
That was awesome, Derek. Don't clap, I've only been here 2 months and I haven't done anything yet. So, you can, but it's nice that you clap for Derek, because I know it makes him really uncomfortable. So, well, welcome, and thanks for coming out. It's really great to be here. I'm actually truly am a recovering accountant, and I'm happy to say that, because I actually, unlike Dara, I actually don't enjoy it anymore and have no problem just leaving it all to back up. I did start in finance, healthcare finance. I was overseas with the military, got back, just got married, just graduated, first kid was on the way. My wife, like while the baby was being born, told me she didn't want to go to work, and looked up at me, and I just said, it'll be okay, we'll figure it out, you know? Because it was like in the C-section room, what was I supposed to do? So I'm at this internship, and you know, they're like, well, we'll just keep you on and hire you full time. And I was like, sure, I'll take it. And that was my start in healthcare. It was an accountant role, fixed asset accounting. And that was with Mayo Clinic up in Eau Claire, kind of in their Wisconsin, Northwest Wisconsin division. Then I moved over to Marshfield Clinic out of Eau Claire, also their Western division, which runs from about Eau Claire up to Rice Lake and everything in between. And then after that, I went to Gunderson, where I was there for 12 years. And through that time, then I kind of transitioned out of accounting and began to work more closely with physicians and the physician group and operations, primarily in clinics, but did have experience in our smaller communities at Gunderson, working with our critical access hospitals in places like West Union, Iowa, and Boscoville, Wisconsin, and Friendship, Wisconsin, and so was sitting on some of those boards and started to get closer to the hospital operations side of the house. But while I was at Gunderson, I was responsible for running their regional network, so their clinic network in their 3-state service areas. So starting kind of on the east part of the service area with the clinic up in Toma, and then going all the way into West Union, Iowa, and over into Minnesota. So I have most of my experiences with large systems, Mayo, Marshfield, Gunderson, the United States Army, and I tell people, you get to a point in your career where you choose where you want to work. And through my time, especially at Gunderson, I heard a lot of really good things about Mile Bluff. I grew up in Nakusa, just north of here, played high school sports here in town. And so I knew about the organization, and I knew about a lot of the good work that they did. I knew that they were bigger than just your kind of typical small town hospital, that they had a lot more services, a lot more clinicians, and they had a good reputation. And the other thing I've come to learn through my time in healthcare is I'm an ardent supporter and advocate for maintaining independence in healthcare. I believe that the independent practice of medicine in this country has to be preserved, and it's something that not a lot of people are tuned into. Our large tertiary and quaternary systems, like Gunderson's, like UW's, they're wonderful. And if you have a farm accident, I live in rural Monroe County, there's farm accidents all the time. I have 6 boys, so I have accidents like at least once a week. So I get it, and those places are awesome, and they all have a role to play. And when you need them, they're great. But if you take it to its logical extreme, all of the consolidation going on in healthcare, you can see that it wouldn't be a good thing for patients if you took the United States of America, divided it into 4 equal quadrants, and assigned one big healthcare for each of those quadrants and called it good. There's really, really excellent evidence that shows when big systems move in, the cost goes up, the patient experience usually goes down, and the access gets worse. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And it's not just about like an anti-big system strategy, but it's really about the experts for the people of Juneau County are the people who live here, who work here. They know their patients know them. And that, when it comes to decision making for the patient, or even just care and concern, you're going to get the most responsiveness, and you're going to get the best care and the best touch right here locally. And so I just really believe and came to see how the further you got away from sort of the central nervous system of the big system, the decision making, the attention, the resources all just sort of kind of trickled away. And a lot of times people were left out in those communities wondering, well, we thought we were going to have all these resources, and now there's really nothing here, and it's actually almost in some cases worse than it was before. So when Dara and I started talking, I thought that's the place I want to work. And I couldn't be happier to be here. It feels a little bit like home. Like I said, I grew up in Nakusa. I'm from southern Monroe County. I still live over there. Mom lives in Toma. So I love these communities. They feel like they're home to me. So at Gunderson, I ran clinics, and here I've got bigger responsibility. I run the operations now for Mile Bluff. So if you think of Mile Bluff and you think of operations, Dara really said it well. The operations of an organization are those that everything costs money, but not everything generates revenue. So what are our core business services that generate revenue and also generate cost? Those are the areas that I'm responsible for. And at Mile Bluff, we have 3 primary silos. We have long-term care, we have hospital operations, and we have clinic operations. And so if you think of those 3 buckets, my job is to make sure that those three are working seamlessly across each other. That, you know, if there's patients that need to move from the clinic into the emergency room, or if there are patients that need to move from the hospital into the long-term care setting, or, you know, if there's imaging studies that need to be done in the hospital setting but are ordered from the clinic, that those things are running smoothly, that we're recruiting the right kind of people, not just warm bodies that can kind of fill a position, but people who want to be here and who want to be part of an organization with a story like ours. So that's my role. The 4 clinics in the outlying areas are my responsibility, the big clinic here in Mauston, and then the operational areas around ancillary services and some of the hospital stuff as well that I partner with Rhonda on. So that's who I am, that's what I'm all about, and that's what I do. So.
Yeah, he's the measured one out of all of us. You know, we have the compassion, the finance, and the measured, and then Dara, the conceptual. So as we were looking at this, we have then needed how to bring in the medical perspective, right? We have operations, we have nursing, we have finance, and really, how does that tie into the medical side of the patient or the system, and how do we get that across and make sure that's paid attention to? So there is a logical reason why these are in this order. This is how they came to the organization in these roles. So as of May 1st, which we have not hit yet, Dr. Angela Gatsky will be taking on the CMO role. I've had the last 3 years great experience with Dr. Gatsky. EMR, she was the electronic medical record, so was very instrumental in that, from really negotiating or moving between providers and the rest of the organization on what's needed. Watched her be very successful in that role. Is a wonderful provider, represents our organization wonderfully, and has just a style about her that you will get to see here in a moment. So, Angie.
So I haven't started yet, so I don't think I have to do this. May 1st. Come back on May 1st. I thank you for coming. It's really wonderful to see so many faces here, many of you whom I know or have met before. I'm Angela Gatsky-Plowman. I've been a family physician here with Mile Bluff Medical Center for the past 11, almost 12 years now. My husband's a pediatrician who's also been here for that time period. And I primarily work in the outreach clinics, but I also provide care in the long-term care facilities as well as in the obstetrics department. My husband and I are raising our 3 children in Mauston, and they're all in the Mauston School District, so we really are very invested in the health of this community. So it's wonderful that I have this opportunity to not only provide direct care to patients, but to be given this role as Chief Medical Officer, which basically means that I rely heavily on my training as a physician, but my experience providing medical care in this community to help the administrative team assess our services, determine what needs there are in the community, how we can best meet those needs, how we can make sure that we're providing long-term care for our residents who are, in this community where I'm raising my family. I have exposure or experience in treating patients with substance use disorders, and through that I've been able to make some partnerships with local behavioral health agencies, and so we're hopeful that we can continue those partnerships and hopefully enhance those partnerships in the future. That's basically, the other part of it too, I should mention, I think one thing that, my husband and I have been here for 11 years, and one thing that brought us here was when we were interviewing all over Wisconsin, and we wanted to come to a rural area. We're both from Wisconsin. What brought us here were the long-term physicians that were here for, their entire careers, the Cottonbrockers and the Nesses, Leon Redant, the Hoffmans, just people who came here and were passionate about providing care for the community that they live in, and they raised their families here and they worked here until they retired. That is what we really wanted, and we feel that still, and I just want to keep that going for our providers. So one of my big goals is to make sure that we keep an environment that the providers feel engaged in and they want to stay within this community. Thank you for coming.
So that rounds out the executive team. You'll see we're very energetic. We're not scared to speak up, I guess. They didn't have a choice, but get up and talk through. So you'll see a lot of exciting things. I think Scott kind of nailed it on the head. We're going to make sure we're focusing on the communities we serve and making sure we're making the right decisions and doing the things that we need. We will gleam into what others are doing, but that doesn't mean that drives what we need here at Mile Bluff. So this kind of gives you a sense, what are we? Now they talked about, we had each one kind of talk about what they did or what they work for. So what are we? We're Mile Bluff is a 501c3, so it's a nonprofit. Okay. So it's a 40-bed licensed hospital. As Rhonda said, we're staffed at 18 beds. She mentioned all the outpatient services, which is extremely special to have in a small community. We've been able to recruit lots of history here, lots of great things. You don't have to drive 70 miles for infusions. Cancer care is taken care of here. We have lots of great things, wound care, just some things that you don't see in some of the smaller hospitals. We have the 5 medical clinics that Scott mentioned. We have the 2 long-term care facilities with the CBRS. We have senior living, so we have Terrace Heights. So it's not an assisted living, but it's a senior living organization. We have the Physical and Occupational Therapy Center. So that's the Kennedy Street building, where we moved. We had the opportunity to do some of our COVID testing out there. We bought that building, and then we were able to move our therapies there. So it's a beautiful facility. If you get a chance for therapies, please pick locally. It is a great place to be. And then we have the 2 retail pharmacies. And currently the retail pharmacies have been a great strategy as Walgreens has been suffering through some of their corporate issues. So we've seen Phillips really pick up a lot in Boston as Walgreens is going through some of their hiccups, not being able to get staff and that kind of stuff. So if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to serve our patients with medications. They would have to go somewhere else. So if we look at that's a great strategy at this point. We have a governing board that keeps a close eye on us. And it's been great. I went through an interview process with the majority of these. We have some new ones on here. Great questions, very tough. Care a lot about the communities we serve. So we have 12 board members. You can see we have some here tonight. I don't know if I could you stand up, please, just so everybody can see you? I appreciate that. So here we have Denny, Dr. Kottenbracher, Larry, and Lori here tonight. So we have 12 in total. We have 5 physicians and 7 community members. And so we get a good cross-section of what's going on. Right now we have 1 physician opening as of May 1st because Dr. Gatsky was on the board. So we'll take her off the board and then we'll have another physician opening. So good cross-section of folks. So if you see them out in the community, please let them know how well we're doing. They get to always hear how they always are worried about getting the bad stuff. Let's make sure they're getting the good stuff as well. So I appreciate that. So we walk together into the future. Here we are, and we just need to pull together. I've been out, as I said, and doing community events, trying my best. My daughter just started softball, so my Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to be extremely busy, which some of the events are on. They won tonight, just in case anybody was wondering, but she didn't play, so I guess it doesn't matter. And so we talk about we need to partner with community organizations. We talk public health, some of the other communities. We've really tried to gather money and give to food pantries. The library, we do a $2 every Friday. You don't understand how wearing jeans sometimes is super exciting. And so we have people donating to that. But how can we get more involved? If you're waiting for us to come and ask, I would I would call you to come to me. You know, as I'm learning, I've been CEO for 4 months. That hasn't been my role. So I'd like you to come and see what we can do together. I have been to school board meetings, and so we've kind of talked slightly on what some things can be done, but I think we just need to get more involved. So community members, I've got an opportunity to talk to a few people that have been sent to me. That's what you call it. When you call, sometimes you're sent to the CEO, right? It's like the principal's office, right? And we work through. You know, I've had questions about flyers that have come in the mail, you know, and so by all means, call me. I'd rather you call and talk to me than if you tell one person, they tell 10, and we forget about the great experience, but we remember where we screwed up, right? We're all human, right? When we walk together, we forgive you, that it's a give and take. Some of the businesses we'd like to get involved with, you know, some questions came about insurance. Isn't health insurance getting a little pricey these days, right? So maybe there's opportunities where we can work directly with businesses instead of cutting out the middleman, maybe. You know, we have things that we can think outside the box so we don't have to go in this conformative way. You know, businesses are getting, you know, working with insurance companies and then they spread the cost. You know, I like to say it's the insurance company clause. You know, you may be doing good, but your neighbor gets in a car accident and your rates go up. You know, so how can we really look at that and cut out the middleman potentially? Employees, you'll see through this theme, we're really working really hard to get the employees engaged and have their input matter, right? We won't always be able to do what comes to us, but we really will try our best to look at that and see what we need to do, and so on and so on. So you may have ideas for us. By all means, we'll take them, right? We'll do something with them. We may tell you no, which is okay. You know, we only have so much resource. And one other piece that we're talking about, we have a lot of skill, right? And medical skill, billing skill, registration skill, medical skill. We also have a lot of other things. We need to see how we can tap into our 700 employees to put those skills out in the community and allow that to happen through the organization. So we walk together goes community, employees, and every piece of that. So when we talk about focus areas, we have the biggest part here is really the Mile Bluff Medical Center culture. So you'll see later I'll talk about our goals, and they're done in an order that is very important to me. But we'll touch on that a little bit later. But as you see, primary care is a focus area, and it's the largest bubble, right? We are a primary care organization. We have all these other wonderful pieces to us, but we're here to make sure we're taking care of our patients long-term for common care as well. So OB services is great. We have a lot of organizations dropping out of OB care, right? So people have to travel to deliver babies. We have added some services in OB. We have water births. So I guess that's a thing. Sorry, I don't know, not my thing, obviously, but it's a thing that people enjoy, I guess. And you know, and we've added a midwife. So we're trying to figure out and do some dynamics around that. Surgery close to home, we've added some orthopedics. We're still working on getting that service line up and running. COVID kind of slowed a lot of things down, but we're ramping that back up. Long-term care, so if you look, we're at the beginning of life, we're close to home, and then we're towards the end of life. We want to make sure we're there for the full cycle. So we have 2 nursing homes, in the senior living and CVRF, and we have some memory care in our clinic as well. Dr. Redant has got a grant for that and is working on some of that in our clinic. So we're trying to expand some of the senior care that we have. And then of course, inpatient and outpatient services. How can we do it better? What can we get you that you need? And then the biggest part is recruitment. One of the biggest parts, because we can't do any of this if we don't have anybody to do it. So we're looking at that. As Scott mentioned, we're being very diligent of the people that we're bringing in. You know, it's a very unique set. We understand that people either love this or like bigger, right? So the group that we have, an executive team, loves the size of where we're at. So if you have any ideas of anybody that wants to come work here for anything, please send them our way and we'll definitely talk to them. So one part of the culture that we're working on is we're going to kick off this heart. I believe that every healthcare organization should work with humankind and really work through your heart. Kind of cheesy, but it actually works really well. So it's an acronym that we'll be using internally, and we have not kicked this off, but we will be getting this kicked off. What it is healthy dialogue, right? You never get the right answer if no one's willing to speak up. So in a sense, it's getting into a meeting and you're afraid to speak up because when you get out, your boss is going to tell you to never talk again, right? It's just a thought process. So it creates a safety mechanism. Everybody's voice matters. You know, when you don't bring the people into the process that do the process, you're probably wrong when you're making the decision, right? And maybe they have great input. So it's just being mindful of this. And at the top, you know, we used to have the system where it would go, all the decisions go up, and then they come back down. And so what we're trying to do is make the decisions across with knowing where we're going. So that will make a difference. And then we have accountability. Accountability is a very big buzzword along with trust. You know, you're not accountable, I can't count on you. The big piece about accountability is you have to set expectations, right? So between community and healthcare center, if we don't know what you expect from us, we will probably fail, and vice versa. If we don't say what we need from you, then it will probably fail. So it's really outlining what the expectations are and agreeing upon them. And so that can be both community along with internal. And then resilience. Resilience is a big buzzword as well. But that is really when something bothers you, how do you react to it? You know, when you show up and you're upset and someone talks to you a way you're offended, how do you react? You know, you can either have a great outcome or you can just be, frankly, ticked off all day. So that's really what that looks like. And then trust is the last one. And trust has a very specific definition. It's character, competency, and interpersonal relationship. And I think what we have really need to work on is the interpersonal relationships with the community. You know, so because we think that's important. So this can go internal and external. So one other thing is, you know, when we do the community relationships, like we are you. We have 720 people working. We are you. They are coming to our organization for care. You know, they're out doing things in the community. They're participating in things. And so when you look at the elements to walk together, we need visibility. So this is a start. You know, this might not give you all the answers that you're looking for tonight, but it'll give you visibility. We need engagement. If we're not engaging with you, let us know. You're not engaging with us, we'll let you know. So that'd be pretty fair. Compassion, we talked about trust, transparency, education. You know, so we get to know what all of us do is very important. And then when we funnel that through, we just start understanding each other. So that kind of gives you a sense of the strategy and the community concept that we'll be walking through. So I think it's important to know we are you. So one thing about me, I didn't really tell you a lot about me other than my educational background, accountant, and moved on. You know, I started off at senior with a baby between my junior and senior year, right? So you can imagine what story I heard. Oh, dude, you're gonna be unwell for the rest of your life, right? Right? You're not gonna be nothing. You're not gonna become anything, you know? So I understand. I'm not, you know, my biggest fear of being CEO is that I sit up here and y'all think I'm untouchable, right? Not true, but it's a fear of mine because I've been through everything. I've been on food stamps, right? So how do we get people to remember that they're not what they do, they're who they want to become, right? So that's what matters here. Who do we get the right people in front of the right group to let them know that we can do what we can do, you know? So keep that in mind. If you think anything that you have to say to me is crazy or not realistic, it is not true. I probably touched it sometime in my life or have been told it. So we need to know that we are touchable. We can be one together. So let's give you a little insight about Mile Bluff. Okay, so I really hemmed and hawed about showing this just because it's very transparent, right? Very transparent. We talk about our strengths. We talk about primary care. Independence is a strength. You know, since I've been here, I've got to hear, oh, someone should take them over so they do it right. Or, you know, or if they would go with Gunderson or UW, then we get better care. You know, and of course I was on the Gunderson side saying, well, if we got Mile Bluff, you know, we could have this service area. But it's not true. Our strength is independence. And it was mentioned by all of us. We're 70 miles away. We can make a decision. We can have independent decision making and care. And that's the path we're going to go down. Longevity and loyalty. I think Natty Kranz has been here at our organization 55 years. 55 years. Still doesn't want to go, which is awesome because she does a lot of education. But we have a lot of longevity. You heard Rhonda's story. It was great. You know, you get to see that. You know, reputation and location, that catches us on both weaknesses and strengths, by the way. Reputation does. But when you look at our opportunities, you know, tooting our own horn, we don't do very well together. You know, so that's something to look at. Ortho service line. The biggest one for us to think about in the community is partnerships. How can we work with other community organizations and become partners? How can we bring specialty here, some specialty pieces we have here, working with other independent hospitals? You know, you have Toma, you have a Reedsburg, you have Black River Falls. Instead of getting into the bigger systems, what does that look like? When we look at our weaknesses, you know, we have a resistant culture. Well, we don't want to change. That's probably everybody in the room, by the way. It's just not us. We're slow to implement and cease. You know, you ever sit back and go, why are they doing that? Why is Mile Bluff still doing that? Just because we don't want to say we failed, right? And I think that goes everywhere. Some of the threats that is important to the community is our provider pool. As we talked about longevity, we have where we need to start recruiting. You know, our providers are getting where it's ready to start enjoying retirement, right? The cycle's coming along with the nursing and others in the organization. Outside disruptors, telemedicine. Anybody can come and do telemedicine. It's an example of that. You know, our community economy. How can we get involved and really get everybody to move up? I think that's good. Reimbursement. So, you know, what we get paid. I was talking earlier, as insurance companies are like raising your premiums, they're lowering our payment. It just seems to be the way it works. So, so keep in mind that if we work together, we can get that out of the middle. So there are some things there. So I hope you understand that we're trying to be transparent. Now you know where some of our weaknesses and opportunities are. And if you'd like to add to that list, you can give me a call. Right? Because there's some things that we don't see. We're short-sighted sometimes. So our 2022 goals. So you may say, well, this is just a one-year goal. Okay. Well, employee satisfaction is at the top of this list for a reason. So how my brain works is if we have engaged and satisfied employees, they treat patients wonderfully. Patients are satisfied. If we say all we care about is the patients, the employees feel left out and the patients feel it. Right? It's just the semantics. It's a different way of looking at it. You know, we care about patients, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But how do we get the best care for patients is really paying attention to our employees. So that's kind of a change, and that's why employee satisfaction is on top. And then that leads to patient satisfaction. You know, fiscal responsibility is important. I know I said earlier we're a nonprofit, but a nonprofit should make money. Right? I think when I first got here, you know, nope, shouldn't make money. We're not allowed to make money. The reason we would make money is because we want to invest back in our employees, our capital, our building, our equipment. We're getting a new bed machine with one of our remodels. It's $650,000. That's not the construction around it, that's the machine. So I know it seems like we're like rolling in the dough, you know, from a perspective, but it costs us a lot to have employees, our number one asset, and then our supplies and equipment. So with some of the current projects that are going on, so we have some remodeling projects coming up. So currently we have scheduled a cancer care and infusion remodel that will move the cancer care and infusion department to the front of the hospital where there's windows. So people that are sitting there for hours have the ability to look out the window. Right? Right? So that is, thank you. Yeah. And, right, I mean, you sit there for some time, and so look out the windows, be in a new space, have a different entrance. Right? So you come in the side of the building instead of the front where everybody's coming in. It's more, you know, more secluded. And so we have that coming. We have the nuclear medicine machine in imaging. It costs us $650,000. To get the construction, just to give you a sense, it's $1.5 million, right? But what that machine does is it locates where you may have cancer, but it shows you where it's at. You know, I'm finance, so someone had to show me this, right? It shows what bone you're by, you know, where that's at. Right now we send everybody to UW. Well, majority to UW. I'm sure we use Gunderson as well. And so now we will have that close to home. So, and the other one is the OB department. We'll be remodeling. You know, we need tubs to have water births. And so the thrift shop was generous enough to pay for a tub last year. And so we've kind of been sitting and waiting for that. So that's been a great asset. The thrift shop has done awesome in supporting the organization with millions of dollars over the years. And so we'll have that. We'll go from 5 rooms to 4, but it will feel better. We'll have room for people, and we'll have tubs in 2 rooms. So, and then the other one's some, you know, OR, storage room that you have to get regulated. And then we'll do some pharmacy. So that's the remodel projects we have slated for right now. Some of the other projects that we're looking at are the clinic. If you've been in the Mile Bluff Clinic, it's time for a little fix, right? It's time for some fix. You know, the carpet's, I don't know, orange, right? I don't know. She's orange, right? I don't know. And the reason we can't change the carpet now, so if you think, you know, we're just not paying attention, if we rip the carpet up, the floor comes with it because it's wood-based. So we'll be looking at that in the next year and a half of the new Mile Bluff Clinic, along with remodeling our ER. Been in the ER, it'll make a big difference for privacy and those types of things for the nurses and conversations. So those are the big pieces coming through. So we have to have capital funding to pay for some of those, right? We only make so much a year, so it's like getting a loan on your house, right? So that's kind of what we're doing. But one thing we're doing that's unique with capital funding, we will ask the local banks to participate. So we will be touching the community. So Bank of Boston. So it's only about 20 million. Think we got it? No, but we would like to have banks participate locally so we can give interest back into the community, right? And so we've the board has agreed to set some of our capital that way, so it allows us to do that. So when you start thinking, you know, what other things do we give the community? We want our local banks to be strong. So instead of saying you have to take the whole amount, let's try to break that up to see if we can get more to participate. So we'll be giving you guys a call, just see how, if you're interested. You don't have to be, no pressure, but we'll do that. Another, as we talked about, recruiting keeps coming up. You know, we have some providers slated to retire, we have some nurses and other folks slated to retire. So that is on the forefront. We're putting a recruitment plan together so that we can be ready when it's time. Not to push anybody out, but we want to be proactive on that. And then our reputation. So my goal is to get out and be in the community and talk about the good things and recognize the things where we fall down, right? That's usually what hits my plate, is when we fall down. Or I see a Facebook post, you know, and I understand people are frustrated, but let's get out and let's talk about it and make sure we're resolving it. So our reputation is big. Reputation in a way of good stuff, right? It's not all bad. Reputation of good stuff. It's amazing. I've heard great things about our organization in the last 2 days that I haven't really had an opportunity to hear. So getting out and doing the reputation is a big piece. So let's do a time check for you. So that's kind of the current projects that are going on, and then just regular work, right? There's always regular work going on. And so before we get to the questions, I did just want to wrap up some thoughts that I had. You know, coming from a larger organization, I had an opportunity to sit back and watch the story or listen to the story of Mile Bluff. It is truly amazing. You guys have a great asset here in the health system. Having the amount of providers, we have 700, as I mentioned, 720 employees. 20 of those are medical doctors, right? And 26 of them are physician assistants and nurse practitioners. So we have a great base of people that love to take care of you, that make sure you're at the forefront of where we're at. We have also 133 nurses, and it just goes on and on from there. And so if you can remember, we are you, right? We have doctors sitting in here, we have nurses, we have other organization, people, compliance, and pieces like that. So we have a great story to tell. You know, the last thing we want to do is give that story up to someone else. We don't want a big system to come in and determine what our community needs from far away. So thank you for your support. I appreciate it. I would love your feedback, and right now I would love to take your questions.
I have a question that out on the street, there's talk of moving the dialysis to the old Shopco building, and I was wondering if that's a truth or a false.
So I would say neither. We are not that far along in discussions yet. So we are not we don't have that far planned out. For one thing, the Shopco building is the Shopco building right now. We don't have a Shopco building. But one thing we do have to think about is when we remodel the clinic, what are we going to do? So we have to move that somewhere at this point when we do the clinic. So yeah, it's a rumor with a little ring of truth. But keep it to yourself. I cannot be transparent, but yeah. So I would appreciate it. We don't have any deals, anything done yet, but thank you for the question.
When you remodel the Mile Bluff Clinic here in Boston, are you doing that in sections, or is that as a whole?
We are actually, Scott and I had a conversation yesterday about what that looks like. We have to keep the address of Mile Bluff Clinic the same because of rural health clinic rules. Here we go, government, right? Government. And so we're brainstorming on if we could put it somewhere else on our campus and leave the clinic whole until we need to move it, or we need to figure out what to do with that. If they go out to the outreach, or we figure something out. We're just not to that point yet.
A while ago, I remember, I'm Doreen at the Nesita Family Medical Center, so I just got a few questions.
Yep.
My supervisor isn't here, so
Yep.
she's not like downgrading me and saying, don't be asking that question. But listen.
Healthy dialogue.
Right. Question, a few years ago, I can remember there was talk of building a new Mile Bluff clinic, and that the main water line couldn't go over where like Terrace Heights was. Is that still a possibility for the new clinic, or would the clinic the whole new Mile Bluff clinic maybe be going someplace else within the community?
It will not be going someplace in the community. We may be able to finagle the address somewhere on our campus, but the likelihood of losing our rural health status is not for sure, but high if we move it somewhere else. So the rural healthcare status says you have to be in a HIPSA, which means you don't have enough providers. Well, we're grandfathered in because we have 26 physicians and 20 physicians and 26 NPs and APs. So those are the strategic questions that we need to ask, that we need to tease through in the next 6 to 9 months to make sure that we bring a good plan to the board so that we keep ourselves whole. Yep, we're not to there yet, but those are great questions that we've been thinking about. Mm-hmm.
So you're going to build a new Mile Bluff clinic then? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh. And what would you do with the old one?
I don't have all the plans teased out, so now you're like in my brain, right? The likelihood is either knock it all down or knock the old wood part down. There's like the front part is wood, and that's a fire hazard, by the way. So we'd figure that we might keep the back, but we don't know yet.
So I'm just, health, and so I'm the public health officer, so I will stick to my umbrella, and health is really so much more than healthcare at times. So what do you feel like your role is in helping community conditions so that everyone has the ability to both access good quality healthcare but also live their best lives in the community? And what are your priorities and how do you want to achieve those?
So I think our main priority is partnering and figuring out where we can fit in, right? We haven't really talked about that that much. We also need to make sure that as we're looking at things we can lift the community up, people also have decisions in that, because the community has a decision and humans do as well. And so as we look at how we get our organization structured, it's also the systems feeding in. So I was to participate on the, the collaboration for making sure the community is getting what they need. So we'll plug into a lot of those. So we don't really, we're right now focusing on how we make sure we're solid as we work in the community. So now we just need to make sure that we're pulling that back in, if that makes sense. So you and I really probably needed to connect with DHS and all those other areas. And then what does it look like to bring people up? There's choices, in what they make, and sometimes you just need to know what the differences are in their choices. And I think we can help with that. We've got lots of great resources, 720 of them, that we can see how that works and allow them to do that. So we don't have a definitive plan yet, but we can work together and figure that out. All right, I'll be around for a while, so if you want to ask me any questions, I'll be available along with the team, I believe. I see them all still here. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.